Hi, Nick.
Hey, Jared.
How are you?
Good. It's weird to see you on this side. What does that mean? We can't break the, what do you call that?
The fifth wall.
The fifth wall, which is
Or
the
fourth
camera.
wall,
The
whatever.
fourth. There's a wall that's been broken because the cameraman is now on camera, which is craziness. Jared, my cooking partner for the gumbo's husband,
Vanna White.
Vanna White, if you will. Cue the scene.
Perfectly. Hannah White. All right then.
All right, so what are we doing here? We got to chop this puppy down and
Yeah.
we're going to season it and get it ready to go.
So we went to the local supermarket, got a USDA Prime Packer brisket is what this is called. And the reason it's called a Packer brisket versus a regular brisket is this is the flat and this is the point. The point has more of the fatty meat on it. Flat is more lean, is what you'll get. Usually the point is whenever you order chopped beef at a restaurant, this is what you get. It's more flavorful, but it has a lot of fat on it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this, we're gonna trim it, and we're gonna be pretty simple in our seasoning with just some hot sauce on top of it and some salt and pepper. The hot sauce doesn't come through to the meat. It's a lot of vinegar and a lot of peppers, which basically kind of permeates the meat. And but that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna cut a lot more fat than most people think that you need to cut off of it, but because this is a prime, it's marbled pretty well, but there is some pieces of fat that you gotta take off. And a lot of people, you know, they'll say leave the fat, fat's flavor. That means I'm very delicious, but what that also does is people will literally take your seasoning off because they don't want the fat. So you want that fat to melt down and render out while you're cooking, and so all they have is meat.
So if you have noticed, we have a bucket here. So what are you going to be doing with the fat?
So this fat, what I'm going to do is part of it whenever it comes out, and while we're cooking, we're going to render this down into beef tallow, and we're going to put this fat back on top of the meat in the middle of the cook. And so that way it's basting in fat, basting in flavor the entire time, doesn't dry out. We are not cooking with Nick's famous outdoor oven, as I like to call it, a pellet smoker. We are cooking
But it
on-
works.
For some people. We're cooking old school with real fire. We're cooking with oak. We're cooking with whiskey barrels and whiskey barrel wood and cherry wood, along with some royal oak charcoal, lump charcoal. No Kingsford, no free ads, but no briquettes, anything like that. It's all going to be natural wood and particles and things like that. Some rocks.
So what's the defining point of, like, part of this meat? Because we're going to chop it down, right, to make
Yeah.
the point
So basically,
and the flat. So where do you find that point?
so the best part is this right here is called the decal, and it's hard to see, but this is the decal part right here, and you'll see that the beef kind of runs this, and suddenly it switches, and that's where the fat basically comes through. This part right here, you take out all of it. It doesn't render out. You can't really do baked beans with it. Can't do any burgers or anything like that. We're actually just going to throw that away. Some people use it, but it's just, I found it's too hard, too fatty to use.
And so when we cut this, we're going to cut the fat off, and then you're going to come and cut the flat out.
No, we're going to keep it as a whole brisket when we cook.
Okay, because
And-
you're not using Big Earl's famous outdoor oven.
Correct.
And you
We
have
have-
the room.
We have the room, which you'll see later. But yeah, we're not going to cut anything off except fat. And then whenever we slice our brisket, we're going to slice, and then we're going to kind of move this way whenever you slice. And you'll see how it goes, because this part you'll kind of cut in half and then you'll slice that way. Be pretty tasty.
What kind of smoker are you going to be using out there in the streets?
It's an Oklahoma Joe's. No free ads.
You and them no free ads, man.
So yeah, but it's going to be an Oklahoma Joe's offset smoker. So we have the fire chamber on one side and then the cook chamber in the other. It is an offset, so the fire burns right here, and it goes through a hole and goes out. So the smoke just kind of rolls over everything, keeps it nice, moist, smoky. Our big goal is we want this to taste not like it does not taste like a burnt piece of wood, not like a burnt piece of charcoal. We want it to taste like actual beef flavor, which is why we're pretty simplistic on our seasonings, and we want to make sure that whenever you taste this, you're tasting the beef first and you have that little smoke flavor after. So it's not overpowering, because you don't want to overpower a lot of people with it. We're cooking in a Central Texas style, which is like a Terry Black's, Franklin barbecue, you know, things like that. It's become more popular. I know we're in Mississippi, so a lot of people are used to the Memphis style of barbecue, even though Memphis is pork. They like to Memphis style it with their beef with the really sweet rubs and sweet barbecue sauces, and we're not about that. We're more about vinegar in Texas, vinegar and pepper in Texas. My wife is from Texas, and so that's how I found out about Texas barbecue, and I love it almost as much as her.
Well, I guess the main thing that I want to know about is everybody usually uses a binder on this, and we're not going to be using a binder. We're going to be going straight direct dry.
No, we're going to have a
onto the
little
meat.
bit. We're going to have a little bit of binder. We're going to have a little bit of hot sauce.
So
you can use
that's
any
what
hot
you're
sauce.
using as a binder, the
Correct.
hot sauce.
Yeah,
So the binder will be the hot sauce, and then you have a simple rub made out of salt, pepper,
and seasoned salt. That's it.
and so like it does say it's tones.
Well, we just
Tones or
reused
Tony. It's a reused bottle, but the reason why we're using the fresh cracked black pepper, the fresh cracked salt, is
it has a better, more flavor. As you have seasonings, you buy seasonings in a store, the season mellows out, and so whenever you do it fresh, you have the best flavor that you're going to get. If you have you'll notice if you have one of these stuck in the side of your cabinet or whatever, you notice you have to use more to get a flavor off of it. Right now, you know, that's going to be the best flavor we can get. So,
that's true. All right, you ready to cut this puppy open?
yeah, first things you got to do, crack open a beer.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
How long are you going to cook this? Long enough to drink a beer,
That's
or
what
two,
I'm talking about.
or 10. So first things first, BSI, scene safe. So, got to keep your gloves on.
That's
You don't really
right.
have to if this is yours, but we're cooking for other people for a birthday party, so
If
we're
you
going to try to
don't,
be
I
as
mean-
clean and safe serve as possible because my wife is safe serve
Serve
certified.
safe.
Serve safe.
And if
And
you don't
so-
wear a glove, you'll wind up in the position I'm in.
So she's going to really hate my knifing skills right here. We're just cutting this up. We're not trying to do anything in particular. We stuck this in the freezer to get a little bit cooked. What we're doing is I got one clean hand and I'm using this knife to do everything with it along with it. That's a little bit slippery. It's kind of like a baby.
Slippery. Oh my.
Well, if you delivered a baby, you know how that feels. So, actually delivered it as a doctor or paramedic on the side of the road.
All right,
That's what
well,
it feels like.
let
It's
me
like a
grab
wet
the
basketball.
fetus. No, it's not the fetus.
That's the
what do you call
placenta.
it? The placenta. Let me grab the placenta.
So, what we'll do right here, like I said,
What
you'll
is
have,
that?
that's probably blood, dried blood.
Disgusting, Jared.
So, you'll have, what we're trying to do is we're trying to, and I put the point side facing the fire. So you'll have this right here, which is not going to be good for anything, especially whenever you're cutting, because that's super thin, it's just going to burn. You don't want to use that. We're going to cut away so you can see where we're going with it. You just touched it with your raw hands. Good job. So you can see right here that I cut a little bit where you have the meat seen, and that's fine.
the meat scene?
The meat is being seen through the fat cap, and that's fine.
Oh no, you
We're
want a
gonna be
little
in
bit of meat up in there.
We're going to be a little aggressive on our cut. It's fine. And the reason being, this is a 16-pound brisket, and so we got plenty of fat to cut off.
How much did you pay for this, and where'd you get it from?
We got it from the Costco. It's a store in
Costco.
Mississippi only. You have to be a member, which I think is really cool. And it was actually, this was a USDA Prime brisket, and it was $50. So super cheap. And so what we're doing is we're actually trying
That's
to
a
make
lot
this,
of meat for 50 bucks.
we're trying to make this more aerodynamic. Whenever the smoke rolls over, we don't want it to hit something and then come back through and then go over and miss this part. And so that's our goal, is we're trying to be more aerodynamic for the smoke.
Well, and you want that first smoke to permeate through, because if you have that much fat, because you have what, 2 hours or so,
Yeah.
that the smoke will actually permeate the meat. But if you have all this fat here, it's never going to get through that meat.
Correct, and that's why you're very aggressive in cutting. My father-in-law, shout out to him, when he first saw me cutting this, he's like, fat's flavor, why are you cutting the fat? Well, yeah, it's great, but people are going to cut this off on their brisket.
Is that
And
a
so
shout out?
That's a shout out, I guess. So we're just going to
You're
cut.
just letting him know about his meat skills.
He gets a steak well done. So
He gets a steak well done. John, you get a steak well done? Sir.
So we're just cutting, and basically you're just kind of sawing it through, getting everything that you can.
Did I get it sharp?
Oh, it's super sharp. Yeah, you're fine. And like you said, you're going to come up, you're going to hit a little bit of that. That's fine. So, but like I said, we're going to come through. We're going to cut all this off. We're going to make it nice and neat. We're going to. Some people will cut more aggressively. One thing we don't do is we don't do competition barbecue style.
Nope,
because
that's gross.
Yeah, they add a lot of MSG, a lot of flavors, because you're just trying to get one bite. And everybody knows the rules on that one. Ain't that right, Dave? Portnoy.
Competition barbecue, competition any kind of food. You know, you'll win prizes, but it's not what the people like. And it's tough to do. Kenley, you want to come over here and help? We'll come get you some gloves.
Let's put her on the knife duty.
No.
So, like I said, we're cutting pretty aggressive. We're probably going to cut about 2 pounds off this brisket.
Get you 2 gloves.
And the reason being, this stuff's going to render out. It's going to melt down. But if you have too much fat, it's just not going to render out. And then people are going to take your seasoning off and not eat it. And then they're just going to have a thing of meat. So.
That's it. I put the other one on and just stand behind Jared like this in case he needs some help, just like I'm doing.
Jeff's kicking camera skills. His arms are probably getting tired. He's a firefighter, so he's used to watching TV all day, playing Xbox.
Wait till that 4th wall gets broken. He'll tell you about the firefighter stuff down there in Florida.
Little history.
No, you're supposed to do this right here, Kim.
Little history. I was a firefighter. And then my wife told me I had to make a living, so I had to find another job.
More dangerous.
How is it more dangerous? You rolls around fixing routers. You can't get hurt unplugging stuff and plugging it back in unless you get a crick in your back.
It's electrocution. So we're gonna flip this over because that's enough.
Flip it over.
Oh my, it's all over the counter.
Yeah.
Oh.
So this side, it does have a silver skin. I guess if you're doing competition, we have one brisket. We're not gonna really cut this silver skin off. It doesn't do anything. I've cut it one time, and honestly, no one noticed that I cut silver skin off.
So the silver skin, like on ribs, would be important to get rid of.
Yeah, silver skin on
Because
ribs is absolutely important.
Ribs, that's imperative. If you do not cut the silver skin, your ribs are gonna be terrible. So when you're going to the store and you're finding the ribs that are in the bag that says ready to go, is the silver skin cut off? Because it's probably not going to be good without it cut off. Your meat will not cook correctly.
So we're cutting this large piece of fat out, and as you can tell, this is nothing but a hunk of fat. And this is what I was going to say I was going to throw away, because you can't really do anything with it. You can't make barbecue sauce, baked beans, anything like that with it. It's just a big hunk of hard fat that just serves absolutely zero purpose.
You just slap it around a little bit and then put it in the container.
So we have our brisket. Everything's looking good on it right here. I'm gonna cut right here.
That's
just
right.
To get a little bit more aerodynamic. Like I said, I know I'm using aerodynamic. We're not trying to fly a plane, but we are trying to cook a brisket as evenly as possible across. We did put this in the freezer just a little bit before we put it on here, just so it hardens up this fat.
You put it into a kitchen freezer, not a commercial freezer. Well, no,
No free ads.
Well, no, I'm just saying, you know, like, as far as like other people doing it, we have a commercial freezer, but it was not in there. It was in a regular freezer, which freezes much differently than a commercial freezer.
So, like I said, this hand's been clean the whole time. I haven't touched any meat with it. And the reason being is now I can grab stuff that Nick likes to throw over.
But I've already touched that with my dirty hands, so let me go ahead, Kenley, go ahead, dump that on.
How much?
Just
all
to
over.
dabble, do you? Everywhere. Alright, keep going, and you gotta kind of zhuzh it a little bit.
Don't let it touch the meat. And so as she's doing that, we're just rubbing this on there. And I'll tell you one that's really good is wing sauce, Frank's Red Hot. Basically, you're just getting something that this is gonna stick to.
It'll let
adhere
you know
to.
when you're good.
Sometimes One thing I really like is using Wagyu beef tallow. I'm gonna borrow this because it's on this side over here. Wagyu beef tallow, and the reason being is you just cut off a whole bunch of fat, and now you're about to put more fat on it. Exactly. That's the whole purpose of this.
Because we're gonna do what with it? We're gonna wrap it up.
We're gonna wrap it up.
Otherwise, you wind up where I'm at.
So we're gonna keep going. So Kenley, you want to do the honors again?
Fantastic work, Kenley.
And the reason why we're doing this also, even though we just did that, and we're gonna flip it over, it's gonna be messy a little bit, you're good, is this is not the presentation side. That's the presentation side that we're doing. That's the side, the fat side up is how I cook. And so that's, thank you, Kenley. Let me borrow it one more time. Fat side up is how I cook, and we are out.
Oh man, we're
Slam out.
Slap out.
So,
Hey, we're gonna need another child.
so
Do we
fat
have
side
any more
up
children?
is how I cook. Some people do fat side down. I always do
Christy.
fat side up. Find a little piece kicking out like that, you can cut it. It's no problem.
Come here.
So,
We need some more Cholula.
like I said, no, we're good. Well, maybe.
We're good. Happy mama.
So, like I said, we're doing salt, pepper, and seasoned salt for this. A lot of people do just salt and pepper, but I've learned that a lot of barbecue salt places, not to be named because I don't want to get sued, they use Lowry seasoned salt. And so we're just going to come up here, and you come up high and do it high because it's going to even out. And you can put as much pepper, as much over seasoning. You can, but over seasoning is not a big deal on a brisket because it's a big chunk of meat and it can handle a lot of seasoning.
Kenley, what's wrong with it? It smells bad?
Yes.
Why does it smell bad?
I don't know.
So we're going to throw this over on that side.
You think
So we want to get, it's got to be a little bit higher. Hang on there, we'll let you try. So,
I could give you a piggyback ride?
Ooh, piggyback.
so you want to shake it and do pretty good. You want to make sure you get the sides while Nick is giving piggyback rides.
There you go.
All right, Kenley, hang on. There you go, Kenley. A little bit on there. Throw it on there. Come on this side right here, right here.
Oh
Okay,
man, on the
all
floor
right.
is good too.
Which is good. That's fine.
The
to
floor?
do.
You gotta season the floor.
Well, you got a kid here. It's fine. He's gonna eat it. So this may be over seasoned to you. It's fine, perfectly fine. The reason being is people like Terry Blacks, they will literally take a brisket and just dump it in a pile of black pepper. And what you're doing, and you're using coarse ground pepper, coarse salt. The reason being is the thicker the salt, you don't want to use iodized salt like table salt. You don't want to use table pepper. The reason being is the smoke will adhere to this and create a better flavor, a better crust. And it's going to have a dark crust. So we're going to let this sit. We're good. We're ready to go until this morning. Tomorrow morning at about 1 a.m. We're going to put this on the smoker. Y'all will be with me. Jeff, Kenley,
No.
Nick will not be with me.
No, Jeff Sr. wakes up at 1 a.m. naturally.
Well,
Isn't that right,
Senior-
Jeff?
Well, Jeff Senior is more than welcome to come hang out and have a cup
Jared
of
will
Joe.
be up
We have
drinking
Folgers.
coffee.
We have Folgers.
Go on, you know where he lives?
So,
Just go knock on the door. Well, follow the smoke.
so that's it. We're gonna.
You want to wrap it up and you want a paper, butcher paper to go?
No, we're not going to do any butcher paper. We're not going to do anything wrapping. We're just going to put it in a pan, let it sit, let it rest. The reason being is we want the air to hit it, especially in the fridge overnight, and let this kind of permeate in. And what this salt is going to do is going to draw that moisture out. And as soon as you cook it, it'll come back in. That fat will render into it, come into it. We're going to render that fat while we smoke on a hot pan.
So Jared, just so everybody knows why we're fast forwarded.
Oh,
So, as you can see, we're using the outdoor oven, as Jared so fondly calls it. There was a situation that occurred. So, it was yours truly, Big Earl, out here slaving away at 1 in the morning, getting this brisket ready to go for y'all. I don't know why you look so tired.
yeah.
So we've got some beef tallow, homemade. We got Jared.
Just getting the butcher paper ready. We wrap it in butcher paper, so wrap it in butcher paper so because if you use tinfoil, it's called the Texas Crunch, and it basically steams. The tinfoil steams your brisket, makes it cook faster, hence the Texas Crunch, but it makes it taste more like pot roasting. This will, and if you leave it unwrapped, it'll dry out. The pink butcher paper allows it to absorb the moisture, cook, keep moist because it's wrapped in fat, wrapped in moisture the whole time, but it allows the steam to escape. So therefore, you don't lose your bark and you have a juicy brisket on top of it.
Love a good juicy brisket. So, to be perfectly honest with everybody, I wasn't up at 1 a.m. It was more like 4 a.m. But also, I didn't see Jeff.
I was snoozing. That's all I can say.
He's always up at 4 a.m.
I was up before.
Well, you hadn't gone to bed yet. First responding.
Yeah. Alright, so let's finish. I'm gonna let that cool off a little bit more and we'll get ready to wrap.
And here we are with JT.
So we're gonna take a little bit of beef tallow that we rendered out, and we're just gonna put it on this. And the reason being is we're gonna go ahead and pre-moisten it. And everybody loves that term, moist. And the reason I do this is that way it's already absorbing the fat, and so any new fat will kind of just stay inside of it. So we're gonna go ahead and go to the outdoor oven. We're gonna remove the temperature probes. And the reason being is we don't need temperature probes because you know what you're doing. You don't need to probe it.
I didn't know what I was doing, Jared. Here, you can sling them over the back like an old wet pair of drawers.
So we got this right here. Obviously got a good crust, looking pretty good. You'll see that right there. The meat won't be where it pulls up like that. The meat won't be as dark, but that's fine. Nobody really is going to notice that. It's going to have a really good crust. It's really soft, really pliable, but it gives. It's firm, and that's how I know how it is done is by feel. You do it enough. Basically, you just want it to have that good dark color that you want, and that's what you're trying to do.
So you do a lot of things with meat.
Yeah. So here we go. It's a little hot. Put it out like that. Oops. And so we're going to spritz it with some apple cider vinegar, whatever concoction Nick made.
Molasses, apple juice, and apple cider vinegar.
So I'm going to put a little bit more beef tallow on it. Obviously, we have a lot of beef tallow. We're going to render that down, save it. That's something good to use, especially when you're cooking breakfast, sausage biscuits, things like that. But we want it to basically coat it more with fat so it'll reabsorb and all of that. The good thing is this kind of rests it. This allows you to rest a little bit. So now we got that done. And the wrap. And my wrap is
in there.
There's a probe. It's a meter probe because he loves meter. So I typically wrap where this side folds in on itself. We'll do wrap it up where it folds in on itself. Take one more piece of wrap.
I'm so helpful.
So helpful. But it's all good. In the end of things. And really what this does, the wrap, you kind of let it breathe, even though it seems like a lot. You just have this kind of cushion. And basically make it like a baby, a cocoon, so to speak. And then we'll just actually put tallow on the outside of it too. And let it roll through. You want it tight as you can. We'll just throw it back in there.
Pull your meat out.
What's that? Right, it's to the right.
It's a birthday.
So we're gonna put this in this cooler. Wrap it. Let it just stay copacetic up in there.
Is it copacetic or copacetic?
I don't know.
Whatever you make of it.
That's the new gymnastics coach. Did you know that?
Put the tallow back in. Let it come back, warm back up. Let some of the drippings from the jalapenos fall into it, which would be great.
Buddy.
There you go. Hey, come on, Rocky.
They'll stay, go dogs. This is a little bit crusty on the bottom, so it's like jerky.
Yes. A million.
Oh wow.
Don't What are y'all cook?
It's almost like you in sharper knife.
Yeah, you just have to not that sharp.
Susie made those from next door. Yeah.